Hi, I'm Cornell Daniels, the host for the How To Show, again, produced by Eric Bailey. We're back here with Derrick Smith, who was elaborating on his education. Go ahead there, Derrick.
Yeah, I believe we left off with me completing my associate's degree in journalism.
Okay.
And that was that was a real fun time in my life because I ended up getting an internship. Actually, before I graduated, I ended up getting an internship with KTVU, which is Channel 2. And it's a television station in Oakland, California, where I got the opportunity to intern in program services as well as the news department. And
question now, that particular radio station or television?
No, that was television
station. You said that was fun. What was that in particular about that particular television station that made that kind of special?
What was fun about it? Number one, I was able to get an internship in 2 different departments. Plus, it put me in the company with, all these business people, all these people professional people.
Right.
And that was something I never really experienced. So it kind of took me, it put me on a higher plane, so to speak. And, I worked and I researched, and was writing news stories, So
it was a very intriguing experience going through that and the different perspectives that it showed you and, made it like, yeah, I can really embrace this, right? So, okay, well, that's great, and that's what you want to experience in this. And again, this is where education is fun.
Yes.
And it's not something that you have to look down as a burden. And like the guy was telling you when he was saying that you could do it, you said you didn't feel like you could. Now, your confidence is over the top. And,
yes.
You're being aggressive. So.
And speaking of confidence, a lot of my confidence, that's how it came to me. When I had someone who believed in me, it helped me believe in myself.
Absolutely.
And so, and not just with that guy, that roommate, but, this television station, I mean, the workers, the employees of this TV station was so supportive of my life, where I was able to do internships and, do a news story, that I now use, actually it's a video of several videos that I have that I use as distribution, meaning, I use those videos to market myself for work in television.
And that's very important. You said something there, when you worked there. What you really pointed out is you had a great group of people to work with.
I had a supportive group of people.
In life, a lot of times, you're not necessarily going to get that.
Yes.
But that's where the education then can help make up for that if you're not working with necessarily a great group of people.
You just hit a good point when you say a lot of times we don't get that. I believe if we align ourselves in a good position, regardless of what bad situation we're in or where we come from, if we can just kind of like, turn the direction.
Absolutely. The inspiration within ourselves.
It comes to
confidence.
You. The people will come to you. And I try so hard to instill that in my brothers. I mean, I understand, that, it's hard out here, being a black male, a young black male. But if we could just, if my brothers could just, I mean, I don't want to say ignore your life and what's going on in your life, but maybe if you try and kind of like change, the position.
It goes back to what we were saying before we came on air, and that is one of the things that I found so great was that we were talking about your focus and how you didn't lose your focus. So you get back what you put out.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
And that's exactly what you're saying here.
Yes.
So we're going to go to a video.
My video?
Yeah, we want to look into that, and we'll elaborate after the video is off there. Okay?
All right.
So we're going to go to the video right here.
Tens of thousands of people stood here in West Hollywood Park in support of the 31st Annual AIDS Walk. AIDS Walk LA is one of the largest events in the country, and at least 20,000 people came out in support of the HIV/AIDS epidemic.
We actually do more than promote condom. We promote awareness because one out of every 5 Americans, one out of every 5 Americans is infected with HIV. So we're an empathetic company, okay? So what we're trying to do is get the word out.
The event started at 9 a.m. with the warm-up and opening ceremony. The actual walk began at 10 a.m., ending around noon.
I know, like, I read stories about people that suffer from HIV, and like, it hurts me, even though it's not personal to me. It hurts me that people are suffering HIV and AIDS, and I want to do anything in my power to help out.
Those participating in the walk expressed their gratitude about the cause, and here's what they have to say.
All right, I do have a dear friend. He was my daughter's best friend. And my son, interestingly, is a peds in infectious diseases. Well, we won't discuss but he doesn't realize if we solve the immune, he'll be out of a job, which is fantastic.
84-year-old Don Foley, who has participated in the walks, was honored last year for having walked 30 years and raised over $15,000. Foley says he was inspired when there wasn't much to do back in the 80s when all your friends were dying from AIDS.
And actually the first few years it was a little testier than it is now. Now they have a very interesting crowd that shows up, mostly all the young people. But in the first days they had us walking on the sidewalk. They didn't open the streets for us. And we get a lot of people going by in cars, giving you the horn and giving you the finger and sort of saying, well, we hope you die of AIDS. You know, it's sort of a pretty hostile crowd for the most part. But through the years, it's gotten better and better and better. And now you see lots of young people at the walks and quite an eclectic crowd.
More than $2 million was raised for the cause of HIV and AIDS. Derrick Smith reporting in West Hollywood. If you think there's less traffic on the freeways these days, there is. I-80 is and remains the Bay Area's most congested commute. In fact, one county stands way out.
On the top 10 list of congested hotspots, Alameda County retains the title of the congestion capital of the Bay Area with 40% of the traffic of the 9 Bay Area County regions.
But since the first of the year, a period not covered by this report, fuel prices have spiked, and that's changed things.
There is a trend as the gas prices are going up that the bridge traffic is actually going down.
It's also, unfortunately, a lot of Californians are losing their job right now.
Still, it depends on when and where you drive.
I don't think it's affecting the traffic at all. We still have the same amount of traffic in the highways.
It does seem like the heavy traffic on the weekends going to Tahoe and like recreational travel seems to have been less dense.
So we are actually seeing a relationship between gas prices and the reduction of travel on the highways. There is increase in BART, there is increase in ferries, there is increase in AC transit.
2% reduction on the toll bridges, seems like a lot, but, we still have 98% of the traffic out there, but it can feel a lot looser.
Derrick Smith reporting for KTVU Channel 2 News.
Excellent reporting there, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
So that, I gather from what I got, this helped improve some aspects of transportation with the freeway system up there?
Uh-huh.
You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, again, I was interning. I was in community college when I did this video. And this, I used to ask some of the writers on the floor, in the news, in the television station and news department.
Ground zero.
Yes, I used to ask them, what is it I could do, where I can learn what you guys are doing. So, they would invite me into the newsroom, where they, elaborate on stories. They come up with, they pitch stories, and then once they pitch their stories, then the writers, they go out, and start writing, writing the stories, and then it's later produced. So what was your question again?
Well, the fact that this led to the gas or whatever it was, they were saying something about a cost.
Yes.
So it made it more efficient, the whole system, duty or reporting on
Yes.
the inefficiencies. Is that correct?
That's
If I
exactly what it
understand?
was about.
Okay.
You know, sometimes our gas prices fluctuate, and they were saying that when pretty much when the gas prices go down, that's when you see a lot of traffic.
Okay.
You know, a lot of commuters because the gas is
getting
cheap.
more gas, yeah.
Yeah, they're getting more gas, and so when you have gas, you can go places.
Right.
And so that's what this story was about.
Okay.
But yeah, again, you know, I was given the opportunity to go out with, you know, a investigative reporter of this particular story, commute congestion. I was able to go out with the investigative reporter and the cinematographer, you know, and ride along with them in the van, you know, and be placed up on on the highway is where you saw me doing this story. And I just did the story, and they videoed it, and you know, and made me a copy of it. Actually, I have about 8 of these doing other stories, but you know, this was all experience for me as a journalism major in community college. And, you know, I enjoyed the experience, and, you know, this is something I'm trying to get into. I'm trying to become, you know, in the television and news area.
News area. And LA, I guess, is a good area to come to, to do that. It's the entertainment capital of the world, I guess.
That's correct.
And so this was at
this
up
was
north in Oakland.
This was in Oakland.
What was the name of the school again?
I went to Skyline Community College.
Community College.
How I ended up there, when I first moved here, you know how when you're in community college, you visit other universities before you're done with your 60 degree units of completing your associate degree or transferring to a university? They took us on a weekend trip to visit UC Davis, UC Berkeley, UC Santa Barbara, and UC Santa Cruz and UC Santa Barbara, because we did a loop. We traveled up the 5 and we came back through the 101. And those Santa Cruz and UC Santa Cruz and UC Santa Barbara are both off the 101. And UC Berkeley and UC Davis is towards the 5 freeway. And so they took us on a weekend trip. Out of the 4 schools we visited, we ended up staying in the city of Berkeley. And that was my first time ever in the Bay Area. And I just fell in love with the San Francisco skyline. The people were friendly and nice.
Very friendly up there.
Yeah, and the weather was much cooler because I don't really care for hot weather, being born and raised in Florida where it's always hot. So, after that trip, I came back and said to myself, I want to move back to the Bay Area, and I'm going to UC Berkeley. That's what I said to myself, because again, I was in community college. So about 9 months later, between the 9 months, I had took a second trip up there because I had found an apartment online. And I went and met the apartment manager and filled out an application and say, hey, I have about 6 more months before my apartment lease is up. You know, could you have an apartment for me? You know, and also because I wanted to transfer to UC Berkeley because I had almost accumulated my 60-degree transfer units to a university. And so I ended up doing that. You know, I planned it out, and I followed it through. So I moved, about a year later, when my lease was up, I moved to the Bay Area, and that's where I ended up finishing my community college work, like my last few courses.
To the radio station there.
And then going on to San Francisco State, and then I ended up becoming a volunteer news reporter for a radio station for a year, and then I also worked as a volunteer news correspondent at another radio station. You know, all these opportunities, all these good opportunities
presented themselves.
Yeah, they was just coming to me. And so, and then I also had a radio show at the college at San Francisco State University, which is where I transferred to. And all these good things just happened for me, you know, in the Bay Area.
It looks like almost like I said, what you put out is what you get back.
Yes.
And you became so focused.
Yes.
That just the things that you did start commanding things coming back into your lives.
That's correct.
And that's a reflective in a lot of things that we do in life.
Yes.
And I'm so glad to see that here's a person, you didn't have any inspiration, it seemed, at some point, but it seems out of nowhere. You found yourself, and you've been on a mission ever since. And so this was when you were up north. Now, this is just part of your education. Give me a little bit more information on your education there. What happened after that with the education?
Okay, just before graduating, no, I'm sorry, just entering at San Francisco State University, I ended up moving back here because in my mind, I thought I had gained all the experience that I needed to work in television broadcasting. So I relocated back to LA, and I finished up my BA degree, my Bachelor of Arts degree in Television, Film, and Media Studies at Cal State LA. And so again, with LA being the #1 market for TV and film, that was the reason why I decided to relocate. In other words, graduate from Cal State LA as opposed to staying up there in San Francisco, graduating from San Francisco State University. So yeah, I came back here. I did 2 years at Cal State LA. I got my BA degree this past December. Graduated. I did an internship with KJLH Radio, which is 102.3, owned and operated by Stevie Wonder in Inglewood.
Yeah, that's my radio station.
I interned with them for a quarter, for a few months, 2 or 3 months. And then next thing you know, I ended up here with you guys, Pasadena Media, to come here to continue to hone my skills, my skills that I acquired not only from working in radio broadcasting, but also interning at those television stations, the one in Oakland, and then I also went to Berkeley Community Media, which is also public access in the Bay Area. I came here to continue honing my skills until a TV broadcasting station give me a job. So I've been looking for work, for a really, really long time.
Really long time.
Yeah.
So what do you think you're at currently now?
At this point?
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm only, December, I'm only 4 months, 3-4 months out of college. And so I do know it takes time to find a job. I also know that this is a very competitive market, television as well as film. And, it's just a lot of things happen in time, and it's just right now, it's just not the time. But again, where I am at now is, I'm not interning, but volunteering here, where I can continue to sharpen my skills, and I on a weekly basis I send out my resume, cover letter, and so on and so forth to different television stations, TV and radio broadcasting stations nationwide, and I'm I just leave it in God's hand, that one day someone will call and offer me a job in broadcasting.
Sounds very interesting. Sounds like you have a well planned out future, and the focusing that we were talking about earlier hasn't stopped with you, and it goes all the way back to those young days where they couldn't shut you down.
Yes.
And they still haven't shut you down.
Yes.
But it's a good thing because the things that you're inspired to do is also very inspirational for generations behind.
Yes.
And this is one reason why we're doing this show. How important is education?
Yes.
It is extremely important.
It is.
But I wanted to say something that in all this, your common sense to take these resources together and make them work for you. We're going to be back in another few minutes here.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund Reading.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Hi, Mr. Daniels, Cornell Daniels, back with the How To Show, produced by Eric Bailey. We're interviewing Mr. Derrick Smith here. And so we were talking just off the camera there, and we wanted, I wanted to go over you said you had some experience with drugs and all those kind of things. What would you say to people that have a similar background that got you inspired to go in the direction that you're going now with all your education? And I want to emphasize the fact that you took your education and you applied common sense to it. Go ahead.
You know, that's a good question, and I don't know how. I can't stress this enough to young brothers, black, white, brown,
Absolutely.
Asian, or whoever.
A human experience.
Yes, because that's what it is, a human experience.
Absolutely.
I can't stress enough how, you know, I was the same guy, you know, smoking pot, hanging out with buddies, drinking, you know, a lot of girls. You know, I lived this life, you know, and so, but I would say the common sense that I had being raised by these 13 women, you know, and they had no education. You know, we were on welfare and food stamps, you know, but I can't stress enough how you can change. You know, you can change. You could change this situation around, your situation.
Yeah.
You can do it, and it's not hard. And I don't believe I talked about this, but when I dropped out of the 8th grade and started hanging with guys in the neighborhood who was smoking pot, you know, and cigarettes and drinking beer and stuff, I hung with those guys, but I was also living a few blocks from a college campus. So it's like this. I had a bad group of friends and I had influential friends.
Okay.
And the influential friends were the guys who were in college. You know, there was a college a couple of blocks from where we lived. So I would go down to this college and be drinking with the college guys. You know, they played football and so on and so forth. I would go and drink and hang out with them. But they were the difference between their partying and the guys from the community who also had dropped out of school like me. The difference in those two groups of people, the college guys, they were drinking. They didn't do drugs, at least, you know, with me. But they went to school every day. And they used to say to me, if you don't get your dumb tail in school, you're not going to make it in life.
You're not going to make it.
When they used to say, they said that jokingly, but I don't know, for some reason, that was common sense to me.
Yeah, we'll see, because I want to elaborate on what you said. You said you had these 13 women around you who didn't have a formal education.
Yes.
Yet they had formal common sense as human beings.
Yes.
And you were able to evaluate between the two.
Right and wrong.
The influence down there.
Yes.
As the application. Because we know in the system that we have in America, you must have an education to
Yes.
make a living, decent living, and how
That's
to
right.
exchange with one another. But in order to make that work for you, you have to come full circle, and that
Yes.
comes back to the 13 women in your life who had the common sense
Yes.
that you can apply to the education.
Yes.
And this was something that Carter C. Woodson, who brought us Black History Month, would emphasize, that if you had an education that didn't help you, get rid of it. But he was saying that to say that you have to take this education and make it work for you.
Yes.
And this is exactly what you're saying with the two influences, these guys getting high and these guys at the school. And even though they were hanging out a little bit, they knew that they needed the application of education.
Yes.
And through the 13 women, you knew that you had to apply common sense.
Yes.
That's a great story, see? And this is what young people and young black men in America, unfortunately, we have to take that extra effort to make sure that we don't, as you said earlier, lose our focus.
Yes.
Because this is what I like about your story in particular, is your ability to not be distracted. That is so important. And with the factors of racism and anything else that you have in life, if you can focus on that, you will attain that. And that is so ultimately important. So I'm in admiration of what you've accomplished. And I'm sure you'll be a great journalist. You do have to, what they used to tell me, you have to have a gift to gab.
Yes.
And always have to talk and maybe come up with the questions and look at all the things that maybe others might want to find out from your story. And you do have a very interesting story. We even just barely scratched the surface of this young man's
That's right.
inspiring story. I say it's inspiring because again, it looked as though there were no elements back there to inspire this young man, but yet he had these 13 women who were not educated, but they had common sense.
Yes.
And then he had these other people from school who were in college. And then he had his own self-inspiration and confidence that had to be awakened. And this came from the gentleman that you were working with. That's a great story.
Thank you.
That's a great story. Well, it's a pleasure, and I'm glad that we had you on our show today, Mr. Smith.
My
and,
pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Our the associated producer, the producer, Eric Bailey, who is a common friend of both of ours, is one that I'm inspired by him as well. And when he told me that he was going to have you on, I said, well, I can't wait to do that show because I'm going to meet this man that made these great accomplishments and who can be a reflection on so many young people out there, period. Especially though, if you're minority, we know that there's a problem here. This is one way that you can address it. Do like this young man. Do not lose your focus. Go for it. Find out what you want to do. Apply that common sense with your education and go for it. So we want to thank you for joining us today on the How To Show. Did you have one other thing you want to say real quick?
Yeah, one thing I'd like to leave people with, especially my brothers, because I know the struggle. You could do it. Do like I did. Get you a tablet and paper and figure it out. You can do it.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of our show. Have a good day.